What's good, my fellow DJs? My name is DJ SCOTS, and you're locked into Behind the Beats. This ain't just another DJ podcast talk. This is where we get real about the struggles, the come-ups, and the solutions every DJ needs. From tough gigs to industry hacks, we're breaking it all down with straight-up advice to keep you ahead of the game. If you're serious about leveling up, you're in the right spot. Let's get it.
All right, so are you ready to really get into this? We're talking about the art of reading a crowd like a pro DJ, like understanding those unspoken cues and that energy, and knowing just what to play to get things going, to create the perfect atmosphere.
It's like being a musical detective. You're always gathering those clues, right? And analyzing the evidence. And then you have to make split-second decisions, to keep the crowd engaged.
And we have got a treasure trove of sources to guide us. We've got tips from seasoned DJs and hilarious stories about epic fails, and even some insights into the psychology of what makes a crowd tick. So are you ready? You ready to unlock the secrets of crowd reading?
Absolutely. Let's jump right in. Let's debunk a myth. You don't just have to watch the dance floor. Reading a crowd, it's about observing the entire room. Yeah. Even those seemingly uninterested people who are lurking in the shadows.
You mean like those wallflowers who are just kind of nursing their drinks at the edge of the room? I wouldn't have thought that they were important.
Oh, they're crucial. DJ Tips, What to Play Next, points out that those people on the periphery, they're often the ones deciding whether to stay or go to the bar or head for the exit. They're like your barometer for the overall vibe.
So how do you win them over? Should I blast my most energetic tracks just to lure them in?
Not necessarily. It's more about understanding their subtle cues. Are they tapping their feet or nodding their heads? Even if they're not on the dance floor, if you see signs that they're engaged, it means you're on the right track.
That makes sense. It's like you're trying to create a musical ripple effect.
Yeah.
Starting from the center and then spreading outwards. But what about the first few people who walk into the place? Do they set the tone for the entire night?
Absolutely. Those early arrivals are your first clues. How to read a crowd for bar and pub DJs. Has this example of a bar DJ who's watching the early crowd. They're 30 to 50-year-olds and they're just kind of socializing. And he's like, okay, I'm going to start with 70s, 80s, and 90s music to match the energy and the people, right? To set that initial vibe.
So if I see a bunch of 20-somethings strutting in, I should probably ditch the classic rock and cue up some top 40 hits.
Exactly. Now think about when you've been in a crowd. What makes you want to dance? Is it like a pounding beat or a catchy melody? Or maybe it's a familiar song that brings back memories?
That's funny you mentioned that. I remember this one time I was at a wedding and the DJ played this cheesy 80s love ballad and everyone hit the dance floor. Everyone. I mean, everyone. Couples were swaying and even the grandparents were getting in on the action. It was pure magic.
Yeah, that's the power of music. It can evoke those strong emotions and memories, right? And a skilled DJ understands how to tap into those emotions and really create a memorable experience.
Yeah, it's you're not just playing music. You're creating a soundtrack to people's lives. But how do you know what will resonate with a certain crowd? Is it just intuition or are there specific techniques?
Well, intuition definitely plays a role. But there are some strategic approaches. For starting DJs, how to read and please a crowd emphasizes paying attention to body language. If you see a lot of smiles and nodding heads, you're on the right track. But if you see a lot of crossed arms and blank stares, it might be time to switch things up.
So basically, if the crowd looks like they're at a funeral, it's time to change the tune.
Pretty much. And sometimes you have to be a little sneaky. How DJs read the crowd and why it matters talks about dropping testers, where you play short snippets of tracks with different vibes to see what gets a reaction. You can even tease some of those recognizable melodies or vocals without playing the whole song. It helps you build anticipation and see how they respond.
It's like you're a musical scientist conducting experiments to see what formula works best. Now, what if you're playing a set and the energy starts to dip? Are there certain tricks to bring it back up?
One technique that's mentioned in hashtag 285 essential DJ tips to steer the crowd is flipping the moment. So it's about using a sudden genre shift or a familiar sing-along to re-energize the crowd. So imagine they're getting a bit tired, right? And then boom, you hit them with a classic anthem that everyone knows and loves. It's like this instant jolt of energy.
Okay, that sounds epic. So it's all about being adaptable and reading a room and knowing when to play it safe and when to take a risk.
Exactly. Think about it like this. You're a storyteller, and the music is like your language.
Yeah.
And your job is to create a narrative that resonates with the audience right. Keep them engaged and leave them wanting more.
Speaking of narratives, I have a confession. I once had this DJ gig, And, well, let's just say it didn't go as planned.
Oh, do tell. We all learn from our mistakes, especially in the DJ booth.
All right, so I was pretty green just starting out, and I landed this gig at a friend's birthday party. And I was so excited to show off my skills. I had this whole set planned with all these high-energy bangers. I figured, it could get the party started right away.
I think I can see where this is going.
Oh, we do, huh? Well, let me tell you, I completely misjudged the room. It was more of a chill, laid-back vibe. And my music just cleared the dance floor. It was so awkward. I felt like everyone was staring at me wondering who hired this tone-deaf DJ.
Don't worry, we've all been there. It's a classic rookie mistake. DJ tips how to keep the energy up and keep people dancing actually warns against blasting that high-energy music right from the get-go. You need to build the energy gradually and allow for breathers and create a more natural flow.
So basically, I was a musical bull in a china shop.
Well, in a metaphorical sense, perhaps. But the key takeaway here is that even seasoned DJs make mistakes. It's about how you recover. You could have transitioned to something more mellow and readjusted the vibe and slowly brought the energy back up.
Okay, that makes me feel a bit better. So it's all about adaptability, right? Speaking of which, let's move on to connecting with different types of audiences, because let's be real, spinning tunes at a wedding is a completely different beast than rocking a club.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Each event has its own, energy and expectations. Weddings, for example, they're all about creating a romantic and celebratory atmosphere.
Yeah, it's like you're the architect of their happily ever after. You're weaving a musical tapestry to go along with their special day. No pressure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And how DJs read the crowd and why it matters really emphasizes understanding the couple's vision and the guest demographics and the flow of the event. You need to blend, those heartfelt moments with just the right tunes.
I imagine you'd have to be pretty versatile, playing everything from those slow dances to the party anthems, maybe even a line dance or two for those adventurous aunts and uncles.
Precisely. You're wearing many hats, the romantic, the entertainer, the master of ceremonies, all in one. Now let's switch gears to the club scene. It's a completely different energy, right?
Oh, yeah. Clubs are all about that high energy and keeping that dance floor packed. And creating a euphoric vibe. It's almost like you're conducting them, like leading the crowd on a sonic journey.
That's a great analogy. And clubs, they often demand a quicker pace, right? With shorter mixes and more focus on those driving beats and catchy hooks. It's about keeping the momentum going and anticipating those peaks and valleys in energy throughout the night.
Speaking of keeping the energy up, what about those notorious crowd killers? Those tracks that are guaranteed to send people running for the bar?
Well, How to Read a Crowd for Bar and Pub DJs actually calls out a few culprits. Surprisingly, some slower tempo laid-back tracks, even popular ones like Gas Pedal by Sage the Gemini or some Drake and Lil Wayne songs, they can drain the energy if played at the wrong time.
That's interesting. I would have thought those were guaranteed crowd pleasers. So how do you avoid those pitfalls? Is it all about reading the room and feeling the vibe?
Intuition definitely plays a part, but they suggest using those tracks sparingly. Strategically placing them between those higher energy bangers to create a natural ebb and flow. You don't want to completely stall the momentum.
It's like a chef carefully balancing flavors. A little bit of spice can enhance the dish, but too much can overwhelm the palate.
Exactly. Now let's talk about a DJ's constant companion, the dreaded song request. How do you handle those moments when someone asks for a track that completely clashes with the vibe you've carefully crafted?
I imagine that could be a little bit of a tightrope walk. You want to be accommodating, but you also don't want to derail the entire night because someone's friend wants to hear the Macarena.
You hit the nail on the head. How to Read a Crowd for Bar and Pub DJs recommends honesty and transparency. If a request is going to kill the vibe, just explain it to them politely but firmly. Let them know it's not the right energy for the night, but you appreciate the suggestion.
It's about being a diplomat, right?
Yeah.
Finding that balance between respecting what the audience wants and staying true to your artistic vision.
Absolutely. Now, we've talked a lot about observing the crowd, but let's dive into connecting with them. How do you as a DJ build that rapport and make people feel like they're part of the experience?
I've always wondered about that. Is it all about making eye contact and giving those shout outs?
Well, eye contact is definitely crucial. How to read a crowd, every DJ needs to learn this, stresses its importance. Especially early in the night when the crowd is still building, it creates that sense of connection, makes people feel seen.
It's like you're saying, hey, I see you, I'm here with you, let's have some fun together.
Now, what about corporate events? Those seem like they'd require a totally different approach.
They certainly do. Corporate events, they often demand a more professional and subdued atmosphere. Think like sophisticated background music rather than those earth-shattering club bangers.
So you're saying I should leave my glow sticks and confetti cannons at home for those gigs?
Probably a wise move. How to read a crowd for bar and pub DJs suggests observing how the crowd is dressed and their behavior as a guide. If it's a buttoned-up crowd, stick to a more elegant and understated soundtrack. So it's all about reading the room right, matching the energy to the occasion, creating the perfect atmosphere. But let's be real, even with all the skills and techniques, there are going to be nights when the crowd just isn't feeling it no matter what you do. How do you handle those moments when you feel like you're playing to a brick wall?
Those nights can be tough. But remember, you're not going to win them all. How to read a crowd for bar and pub DJs reminds us that some crowds are just more challenging than others. It could be the venue or the night of the week, even the weather.
So it's not always a reflection on your skills as a DJ.
Exactly. Sometimes the crowd is just not in the mood to party, and that's okay. But even on those tougher nights, there are things you can do to salvage the situation.
Like what? Give us some emergency tactics for those DJ SOS moments.
First and foremost, don't panic. Just take a deep breath and reassess the situation. Maybe try a classic crowd pleaser, something familiar that might spark some life into the dance floor.
It's like hitting the reset button, right?
Exactly. You could also try engaging with the crowd more directly. Ask them what they want to hear, dedicate songs, crack a few jokes. Sometimes a little interaction can go a long way.
Yeah, it's all about making that connection, showing them you're paying attention, and trying to create a shared experience. Now, we can't talk about DJing in the digital age without addressing the elephant in the room, social media. It's everywhere, and it definitely influences how people experience music and events.
You're absolutely right. Social media, it's changed the game in so many ways. People are constantly documenting their lives, and that includes their nights out. How to read a crowd, every DJ needs to learn this. Even mentions this pose factor, where people are more concerned with getting that perfect Instagram photo than actually enjoying the music.
It's like they're living their lives through a filter.
Yeah.
So how do you as a DJ navigate this social media landscape? Is it something you can embrace or just grin and bear it?
I think you can do both. You can definitely use social media to your advantage, create moments specifically for those epic Instagram shots. A special light show, a confetti drop, even a giant disco ball. Encourage them to share their photos and videos using a specific hashtag. It's all about adapting to the times and incorporating these new dynamics into your performance.
That's a great point. It's about recognizing that social media is part of the experience now, and you can either fight it or embrace it.
Exactly. Now let's shift gears and talk about something crucial to a DJ's success preparation.
We were just talking about preparation, and how important it is for DJs. But it's not just about having a killer playlist ready to go. It's about knowing the venue and understanding the crowd that you're going to be playing for, and just having a clear vision for the vibe you want to create.
Absolutely. A well-prepared DJ is like a seasoned chef. They have all their ingredients prepped and their tools sharpened and their recipe memorized. They're ready to adapt, to any situation and create that culinary masterpiece.
And just like a chef who tastes their dishes as they go, a DJ needs to be constantly listening and observing and adjusting their set based on how the crowd is reacting. Speaking of which, we've talked a lot about techniques and strategies. But what about that gut feeling, that intuition that some DJs seem to have? How do you develop that sixth sense for reading a crowd?
Intuition is fascinating. It's that, intangible ability to sense the energy in the room, to anticipate what the crowd wants, and know exactly what to play next to keep the party going. And while some people might be naturally more intuitive, I think it's a skill that you can hone over time.
So how do you train your DJ intuition? Is it like a muscle you can exercise?
It's more like a combination of experience and knowledge, and a deep understanding of music and human emotion. The more you DJ, the more you expose yourself to different crowds and scenarios. The more you learn about what works and what doesn't. It's like building a musical database in your brain, filled with all sorts of patterns and reactions and insights.
And I imagine that with time, you start to recognize those patterns. You start to anticipate those reactions, and you develop a feel for what will move a certain crowd. It becomes less about thinking and more about feeling.
Precisely. And sometimes it's about trusting your gut, taking a risk, playing something unexpected that just feels right, in the moment. Those are the moments when the magic happens.
It's like you're surrendering to the flow, letting the music guide you, and creating a spontaneous experience that's both exhilarating for you and the crowd. It's about finding that sweet spot, where your intuition aligns with like the collective energy of the room.
You got it. And speaking of those magical moments, one of our sources mentioned finding opportunities to blend your own musical taste with the crowd's preferences. It's about expressing yourself while still catering to the audience.
It's like this musical conversation, this give and take, where you're sharing your passion, but you're also listening and responding to the cues of your partner. And when it works, it's pure magic.
Absolutely. And that brings us to something that often gets overlooked, the emotional side of DJing. Being a DJ, it's about more than just playing music. It's about creating an emotional experience. It's about connecting with people on like a deeper level and using music as a universal language.
It's about being a conduit of emotions, using music to evoke, joy, nostalgia, excitement, even a touch of melancholy. You're taking people on a journey, a roller coaster of feelings, all orchestrated by the power of sound.
Beautifully put. And the best DJs are the ones who understand this emotional connection, who can tap into the collective heart of the crowd and create an experience that transcends the ordinary.
It's about creating a shared experience, a moment in time where everyone is united by the music and individual differences, they just kind of fade away. And that's what makes DJing so much more than just a job. It's an art form, a way of life, a calling.
Couldn't agree more. It all starts with understanding the people in front of you, reading the room, and creating a musical journey that speaks to their souls. It's about using your skills and your intuition and your passion to craft an experience that's both memorable and meaningful.
And with that, we've come to the end of our deep dive into the art of reading a crowd. We've explored the psychology, the techniques, the challenges, and the rewards of this fascinating craft.
Hopefully you've gained some valuable insights and a newfound appreciation for the skill and artistry involved in connecting with an audience through music.
So the next time you find yourself behind the decks or even just out on the dance floor, take a moment to observe the energy in the room. Listen to that unspoken language of the crowd and just let the music guide you.
And maybe you'll discover your own hidden talent for reading the crowd and creating those magical moments that make a night unforgettable.
That's a wrap on this deep dive. Thanks for joining us on this musical journey. Don't forget to share your own aha moments and crowd reading stories with us on social media. We love hearing from you.
Until next time, keep those vibes high and the music flowing.